I used to believe that losing someone you loved was the worst kind of pain. I was wrong. The worst pain comes when you lose someone because the person you trusted most decided to take them from you. My name is Noah Anderson, and for 4 years, Emma Collins was the center of my life. We met during our final year of college. She laughed at my terrible jokes, stole fries from my plate, and somehow made ordinary Tuesday nights feel like something worth remembering. I wasn't rich. I wasn't the most exciting guy in the room. But I loved her completely. And then there was Blake Harrison. My best friend. We had known each other since college. We had survived exams, terrible apartments, broke weekends, and countless nights talking until 3 in the morning. I had trusted Blake with things I'd never told anyone else. If someone had told me that one day Blake would destroy my relationship, I would have laughed. I would have defended him. That's exactly what made what happened so devastating. The first warning sign came on a Friday evening. Emma and I were supposed to have dinner together, but she suddenly cancelled. Something came up at work, she said. I remember staring at my phone for several seconds. On Friday night? Yes, Noah. I'm sorry. Can we do tomorrow? I didn't think much of it. Then Blake called. Hey, man. You doing anything tonight? Emma cancelled dinner, so probably nothing. There was a strange pause. Then Blake said, come out with me. I almost said no. Instead, I agreed. We met at a downtown bar. Blake was already there, sitting with 2 people I didn't know. He acted completely normal. Too normal. I noticed his phone kept lighting up on the table. Every time it did, he turned it face down. Everything okay? I asked. Yeah. Why? You're acting weird. He laughed. You overthink everything. I smiled and let it go. Around midnight, I decided to leave. As I walked toward the exit, I heard a familiar laugh behind me. Emma's laugh. I froze. Slowly, I turned around. She was standing near the back entrance. And Blake was beside her. They weren't touching. They didn't need to. The look on Emma's face told me everything. She looked terrified. Blake looked angry. I walked toward them. Emma. She immediately stepped backward. Noah. I looked at Blake. He didn't say a word. For a few seconds, none of us moved. Then Emma whispered, we need to talk. I felt something inside me collapse. Not because I didn't already understand. Because suddenly, every little thing from the last few weeks made sense. The cancelled dinners. The secret phone calls. The way Emma had started defending Blake whenever I mentioned him. I looked at my best friend. How long? Blake finally answered. About 2 months. 2 months. He had been sitting across from me, drinking coffee, laughing with me, asking about my relationship, while secretly dating my girlfriend. I looked at Emma. Do you love him? She couldn't answer. That silence hurt more than anything she could have said. I nodded slowly. Okay. Emma stared at me. Okay. Yeah. I took a step backward. I'm not going to fight for someone who already chose somebody else. Blake's expression changed. For some reason, he looked surprised. Maybe he expected me to punch him. Maybe he expected me to beg Emma to stay. Maybe he wanted a dramatic battle where he could prove he had won. Instead, I simply walked away. I didn't know it yet, but that decision would change all 3 of our lives. Because Blake thought I had just lost. He had no idea that I had stopped playing his game. I didn't sleep that night. I drove home with the windows down, even though the air was cold. I needed something to keep me awake because every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emma standing beside Blake. 2 months. That number kept repeating in my head. 2 months of lies. 2 months of Blake pretending to be my best friend while secretly becoming something else to the woman I loved. When I got home, I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the empty space beside me. Emma had left her jacket there 3 days earlier. Normally, I would have smiled at the memory. That night, I couldn't. My phone buzzed. Emma. I didn't answer. A minute later, she called again. Then again. Finally, a message appeared. Please let me explain. I stared at it for a long time. Then another message arrived. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I almost laughed. There was no way to make betrayal happen differently. I turned my phone off. The next morning, someone knocked on my door. I already knew who it was. Liam. My older brother walked inside carrying 2 coffees. He took one look at me and stopped. What happened? I told him everything. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he placed his coffee on the table. Did you hit Blake? No. Did you yell? No. Did you beg Emma to come back? No. Liam nodded. Good. I looked at him. That's all you have to say? No. I have a lot more to say. But first, I'm proud of you. I didn't feel proud. I felt empty. She chose him, Liam. No, he said. She chose a version of him she doesn't really know. I shook my head. Doesn't matter. Liam leaned forward. It matters because Blake didn't suddenly fall in love with Emma. I looked at him. What do you mean? Think about it. 2 months. He had plenty of time to make his move. I stayed silent. Liam continued. Your best friend knew everything about your relationship. He knew when you argued. He knew when you were having problems. He knew exactly what Emma was unhappy about. I suddenly remembered all the conversations Blake and I had. The questions. The advice. The times he had told me, you need to give her more attention. At the time, I thought he was helping me. Now it sounded different. Like he had been collecting information. My stomach tightened. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Emma. I ignored it. Then Blake called. I ignored him too. By Monday morning, the situation had become even worse. I walked into my office and found dozens of messages waiting for me. Some were from friends. Some were from people I barely knew. Everyone had heard. Apparently, Emma and Blake had decided not to hide their relationship. They posted a picture together. Emma was smiling. Blake had his arm around her. The caption said, "Sometimes life takes you somewhere you never expected." I stared at the picture. Then I deleted it. I didn't comment. I didn't like it. I didn't ask questions. I simply went back to work. That afternoon, Claire Morgan walked into my office. She had joined our company only a few weeks earlier. "Hey," she said. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." She raised an eyebrow. "You don't look fine." I smiled slightly. "Long weekend." She didn't push. Instead, she placed a folder on my desk. "Your presentation for Thursday." I fixed the numbers on page 7. I opened it. She had corrected several mistakes I hadn't noticed. "Thanks." She smiled. "You're welcome." Then she left. For the first time in days, I thought about something other than Emma. It lasted maybe 30 seconds. But 30 seconds was enough. That evening, I made a decision. I packed Emma's things into boxes. Every photo. Every sweater. Every little object she had left behind. I didn't throw anything away. I simply put everything into storage. Then I deleted her number. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. Because the following morning, I received a message from Jason Cooper, Blake's business partner. The message contained only 7 words. Noah, you need to know the truth. Underneath was a photograph. And the moment I opened it, my entire understanding of what had happened began to fall apart. I stared at the photograph Jason had sent me. It showed Blake and Emma sitting in a restaurant 3 weeks before I discovered them. But something else caught my attention. On the table was a folder. My company logo was clearly visible on it. I called Jason immediately. What's this about? He hesitated. Blake has been asking questions about your work. My work? Your promotion. Your clients. The project you've been developing. My stomach tightened. For months, I had been working on a financial strategy that could potentially change my career. Only 3 people knew the details. My boss. Me. And Blake. I suddenly remembered every time Blake had asked about my project. I had thought he was interested because he wanted to support me. Now I understood. He wasn't stealing my girlfriend because he loved her. She was only part of the plan. What does he want? I asked. Jason lowered his voice. I don't know everything. But Noah, you need to be careful. That night, I opened my laptop and checked my project files. Everything looked normal. Then I noticed one strange login. Someone had accessed my account from a device I didn't recognize. The timestamp was 2 months old. Exactly when Blake and Emma started seeing each other. I leaned back in my chair. For the first time, I wasn't heartbroken. I was angry. And I finally understood why Blake had wanted me distracted. The next morning, I went straight to my boss. I showed him the suspicious login and explained everything. He immediately contacted IT. 2 hours later, they found something disturbing. Someone had copied several documents from my private project folder. Not everything. Only the files containing financial projections and client information. My boss looked at me seriously. Do you know who could have done this? I didn't answer immediately. Then I said one name. Blake Harrison. That afternoon, Jason met me in a parking garage. He looked nervous. I found something, he said. He handed me a USB drive. Blake has been keeping records of your project. Why? Jason shook his head. I think he planned to use your work. I stared at the drive. Then my phone buzzed. Emma. Her message was short. Noah, I made a mistake. Please talk to me. For the first time, I didn't feel the urge to answer. I looked at Jason. How long has Blake been planning this? Jason took a breath. Long before he started dating Emma. That sentence changed everything. My breakup wasn't the beginning of Blake's betrayal. It was the final step of a plan that had started months earlier. I spent the entire night going through the files Jason had given me. At first, I found nothing. Then I discovered a folder hidden inside another folder. Its name was simple. Noah Project. Inside were copies of my financial projections, private emails, and notes about my upcoming promotion. But there was something else. A document titled Acquisition Strategy. I opened it. My heart stopped. Blake had been planning to use my work to launch his own company. He had even written down the names of the clients I was supposed to present to. Then I saw something that made my hands shake. There was a section called Noah's Weaknesses. It listed everything Blake knew about me. My relationship with Emma. My insecurities. My trust in him. And one sentence stood out. If Noah loses Emma, he'll be too distracted to notice the project disappearing. I read it 3 times. Blake hadn't stolen my girlfriend because he wanted her. He had used her to destroy my focus. I called Jason. Can you prove he wrote this? Yes. Then don't tell him anything. That evening, Emma showed up at my apartment. She looked exhausted. I know you hate me. I don't hate you. Then why won't you talk to me? I looked at her. Because I finally understand what happened. She started crying. Noah, I made a mistake. I know. I thought Blake loved me. He probably never did. She looked confused. What does that mean? I stepped aside and let her see the boxes containing everything she had left at my apartment. I think Blake wanted something much more important than you. Her face went pale. What? I didn't answer. Because I wanted Blake to believe his plan was still working. For the first time, I wasn't going to react. I was going to let him make his next move. The next morning, I went to work like nothing had happened. That was the hardest part. I wanted to confront Blake. I wanted to throw the USB drive onto his desk and watch his face change. But Jason had warned me that Blake still didn't know what we had discovered. So I stayed quiet. For the next 3 days, I acted like a broken man. I stopped talking to coworkers about my project. I answered Emma's messages with short replies. I even let Blake believe that I was too devastated to notice anything happening around me. Then, on Thursday afternoon, my boss called me into his office. Someone contacted one of our biggest clients, he said. My stomach tightened. Who? They claimed to represent our company. I immediately knew. Blake. My boss nodded. We've traced the email. He turned his monitor toward me. There it was. Blake had sent my financial proposal to the client using a private email address. But he had made one mistake. He had changed several numbers. Numbers only the original creator would know. My boss looked at me. Can you prove this is your work? I opened my laptop. I can prove every single number. For the next 2 hours, we prepared everything. Original files. Creation dates. Emails. Access records. Jason's evidence. And finally, the hidden document explaining Blake's plan. We had enough. But I wasn't satisfied. I wanted to know why. That evening, I called Jason. Meet me. We sat in his car outside Blake's office. Jason looked uncomfortable. There is one more thing. What? Blake didn't start this because of your promotion. I stared at him. Then why? Jason handed me another document. It was an old business proposal. At the bottom was Blake's name. But beside it was mine. I remembered it immediately. 3 years earlier, Blake and I had discussed starting a company together. We abandoned the idea because I got a better job offer. Apparently, Blake never forgot. He believed you stole his future, Jason said. I laughed bitterly. I didn't steal anything. I know. I looked through the windshield. Suddenly, everything made sense. Blake didn't want my girlfriend. He wanted my life. My career. My reputation. My future. And Emma had simply been the easiest weapon to use. That night, I received a message from Blake. We need to talk, man. I think we've both made mistakes. For the first time, I smiled. I typed one sentence. Tomorrow. My office. Then I put my phone down. The trap was ready. Blake arrived at my office at exactly 10. He walked in wearing the same confident smile I'd seen 1,000 times before. Man, I'm glad we're finally talking. I pointed to the chair. Sit. He looked around. What's going on? I opened a folder and placed several documents on the desk. He glanced at them. His smile disappeared. What is this? You tell me. I pushed the first document toward him. His unauthorized login. Then the copied files. Then the email he sent to my client. Finally, I placed the document titled Noah's Weaknesses in front of him. Blake stared at it. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he laughed. "You've got no idea what you're talking about." I leaned back. "Really?" He looked at me. "You think I'm going to admit to something I didn't do?" "No." I smiled. "I already have everything." The office door opened. My boss walked in with two lawyers. Blake's face changed completely. "Wait." My boss placed a printed email on the desk. "You attempted to impersonate our company." Blake looked at me. "You set me up." "No," I said calmly. "You set yourself up." He stood suddenly. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." He pointed at me. "I spent years watching you get everything." "Everything?" "You had Emma. You had the career. People respected you. Everyone thought you were the smart one." His voice cracked. "I was always the second choice." I shook my head. "You were my best friend." He looked away. "I wanted what you had. And you thought destroying me would make you successful." He didn't answer. The lawyers began explaining the legal consequences. Blake suddenly looked terrified. Then he said something I wasn't expecting. "Emma knew." I froze. "What?" He looked at me. "She knew I was using your project." My chest tightened. "No. She didn't know everything. But she knew enough." The room went silent. Blake smiled bitterly. "You think she came to you because she suddenly realized she loved me?" I stared at him. "She found out what I was doing and got scared." I didn't believe him. Not completely. But I knew I needed to hear Emma herself. That evening, I met her at a quiet cafe. She sat across from me, crying before I even spoke. "I knew Blake wanted something from you," she whispered. My heart sank. "How much did you know?" "Not everything. But enough." She nodded. "I thought I could change him. I thought if I left you, he'd finally stop." I stared at her. "You betrayed me to save me." "No." She wiped her tears. "I betrayed you because I was selfish." For the first time, I respected her honesty. But forgiveness wasn't the same as taking someone back. I stood up. "I'm glad you told me the truth." She looked up. "Does that mean there's still a chance?" I shook my head. "No." And for the first time, walking away from Emma didn't feel like losing. It felt like freedom. 6 months later, everything had changed. Blake's company collapsed before it even properly began. The evidence against him was overwhelming. His reputation disappeared almost overnight, and the people who once praised him stopped answering his calls. Jason testified against him. My company recovered the stolen project, and the client who had almost left eventually signed a much larger contract with us. But the biggest change wasn't my career. It was me. I stopped measuring my happiness by what other people chose. Emma moved away. I never heard from her again. For a while, I thought that meant our story had ended badly. Eventually, I realized some stories aren't supposed to end with people getting back together. Some end with you finally understanding who someone really was. One Friday evening, I stayed late at the office. When I walked outside, Claire was waiting near the entrance. "You finally finished?" "Yeah." She smiled. "Want coffee?" I smiled back. "Sure." We walked toward a small cafe nearby. There was no dramatic confession. No instant romance. Just two people talking. And somehow, that felt better than everything I had experienced before. A few weeks later, I received one final message from Emma. "I hope you're happy." I stared at it for a moment. Then I replied, "I am." That was all. I deleted the message. I never hated Emma. I never forgave Blake. But I stopped carrying what they had done to me. Looking back, the strangest part is that Blake thought stealing my girlfriend would destroy my life. He was wrong. Losing Emma forced me to see that I had built my entire identity around someone else's love. Losing Blake taught me that friendship without loyalty isn't friendship at all. And walking away from both of them gave me something I never knew I needed. A life that belonged completely to me. Sometimes people think walking away means you lost. Sometimes it means you finally realized there was nothing worth fighting for. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't taking something from the person who hurt you. It's becoming someone they can never hurt again.